Nischelle Turner, and she will introduce Mr. Jeff Clanagan. And you have a bio in your program. Do you have a program? All right, you have a bio in your program about Nischelle. And one of the things that we'd like for each of you to do, and we encourage you to do this morning, is to, number one, register with the Empower Series if you have not done so. Go to the website. You'll have an opportunity to see some of the past presenters as well as some of the future programming that will be available to you, investing and empowering this community here in Dallas. We ask you while you were here to tweet, send out Facebook posts, Instagram, whatever it is, and connect on social media and let others know about what's going on and the information that you have the opportunity to enjoy today. So, Ms. Nischelle Turner, you have a great bio about her in your program, but she is definitely an award-winning journalist. She's covered the Oscars, the Grammy Awards, the Golden Globes, the Screen Actors Guild Awards, and other premier award shows. And her coverage of the Academy Awards was featured in CNN's Road to Gold. Ms. Turner's rooted in family and faith. There's no doubt. I've had the pleasure of having an opportunity to visit with her during breakfast this morning. And she is a shining example of faith and family. And she still visits her hometown in Missouri and regularly attends church there with her family. And one of her home churches is the St. Luke United Methodist Church. Not exactly this, but the same name in her hometown. Her success also emanates from serving. Last year, she was the keynote speaker at the Unity Conference at the University of Missouri, which is her school for journalism. And there she shared with journalism professionals as well as aspiring students tips and skills on how to hone their talent with storytelling and journalism and entertainment and lifestyle and sportscasting. So she's definitely committed to bringing those behind as those before her have done for her. Her many philanthropic endeavors also include her generously supporting the tutoring program at her home church in her hometown. Ms. Turner's dream job currently with CNN and all the other opportunities that she's had affords her the opportunity to meet, obviously, international stars. Where you and I may have to have a line item budget for our entertainment, she goes to work every day, so it's covered, right? She gets to meet people like rapper Psy. Remember him, the Gangnam Style guy? Well, that particular guy actually showed her how to do the dance moves, and she nailed the dance moves in her pumps. So that's what we were talking about. She has the ability to get stars so comfortable with her based upon her personality and her style that they're willing to open up and share in an uninhibited way. And so that is who we're talking about. Ms. Turner describes herself as an all-around goofball, and it's that kind of easy, like Sunday morning personality that has contributed in part to her success. Soon you will see an expansion of her talents where she is hosting documentaries with such icons as Chris Brown and Denzel Washington. And ladies and gentlemen, it is my esteemed pleasure to introduce to you Ms. Nischelle Turner.
Good morning. Good morning. How's everybody? Good, good. Y'all look good. Scrubbed up. We're at the house of the Lord this morning. Everybody looks good. Thank you all for having me first and foremost. I'm really, really honored to be here. And like Melody said, I grew up in St. Luke United Methodist Church. brain and find out how he's doing it, how he's being successful, and how you can next get a seat at the table, because that's what we all want. And let me tell you, actors, great, one thing, you're in front of the camera, but the producers, that's where the decisions are being made. So that's really a route to go to. I always tell people in my business, yeah, you want to be in front of the camera, you have dreams of being an anchor. No. You want to be a producer, because that's where the management is, that's where the decisions are made, that's when you have a seat at the table. So I want to tell you a little bit about Jeff Clanagan. He is the CEO and president. I think I said that once, but I'm going to say it again, of CodeBlack Enterprises. In 2012, he partnered with Lionsgate to bring new material to that studio. And if you're saying, Lionsgate, why do I know that? Think The Hunger Games, okay? Think Divergent, those huge movies. Think the Tyler Perry movies. That's the studio behind those films. So to partner in a joint venture with them, that's big time. That's a big deal. He's also brought feature films to them, TV programming, comedy specials, digital content. And you know, when I was writing this down, I put a little star by comedy specials, because I do think that he's kind of an innovator in that realm, because Jeff really has been in the forefront of the stand-up revolution, the stand-up movie revolution. We've seen them in our movie theaters a lot, the Chris Rock movies, Martin Lawrence stand-up movies, and now the Kevin Hart stand-up movies that are so funny. Well, this man is the creator and the producer of Shaq Prevents and All-Star Comedy Jam. You guys remember those? They're so funny. Shaq is crazy, but they're so funny. And he also has been really integral in Kevin Hart's success and getting Kevin Hart's feature stand-up comedy films into movie theaters and on the big screen, and they have been more than a success. In 2011, the first one that Kevin did, Laugh at My Pain, $7.7 million at the box office, but the per theater average was $20,000 per theater. That's almost unheard of. If you're getting $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 per theater average for your movie, you're doing really well. So $20,000 per theater, I mean, that's so good and so successful. So what did they do? They said, let me follow it up with Let Me Explain. You all remember the last theater movie that Kevin Hart did? Well, first of all, I remember when this first came out, and I was saying, gosh, how innovative of that, because there was the reporting, and I reported on it, that Kevin Hart decided to bet on himself, fund his own film, take the money out of his own pocket, and see what happens there. Well, he won. He hit the jackpot. That movie made $32.2 million at the box office for a stand-up comedy movie. But that's bananas. It really is great. Those are the type of projects that Jeff puts together, that he produces, and that he makes happen. His projects have brought in more than $150 million in revenue. $150 million, and he's doing it in such different ways. So I've talked a lot about him. I've got you all hyped to hear from him. So now we want to hear, how the heck could you make $150 million in movies, right? Okay, let's talk to Jeff Clanagan. All right. I really don't need this microphone because my mouth is big. If you all haven't noticed, I'm loud, I'm goofy, and I tried to put on a dress and heels today, but I just want you all to know I'm a tomboy. I'm as country could be. So if the shoes fly off at some point, don't get upset. They might, because they kind of hurt my feet already. I know. You all, ladies, you're shaking your head. Yes. Why do we do this to ourselves? I don't understand. Okay, Jeff, you getting settled here? Okay. Just so you know, Jeff's a little soft-spoken. I'm going to make him talk to me. That's what we're going to do. We're going to talk. We're going to talk this morning. You ready?
My mic on?
Okay. Yeah, your mic is on. I can hear you. I'm going to pick your brain. That's what I do for a living. I pick people's brains. So that's what we're going to do for Jeff this morning. And also, you know what I just forgot? Up there on the pulpit, there's a list of questions. I'll go back up and get it in a second. The people, could you? Thank you, sir. This dress isn't conducive to getting up and down the stairs. You got it? Okay, great. See, and he's a gentleman too. Smart, successful, and entrepreneur at his business. Love that. Okay. So one of the things when I was reading your biography, Jeff, I read that you employed signature, targeted signature targeted techniques did you bring to, I guess, putting the Kevin Hart deal together, for example?
Well, one of the things with the entertainment industry is, when I say technology, I'm a big technology geek, so the internet has been the equalizer for the entertainment industry. And one of the things with Kevin is the campaign that we put together was really based on social media.
Right.
Based
And
on
he's big on social
huge
media.
on social media.
Yeah.
And so we, when we first got together, we started building social media channels. And one of the things for talent is important is that the voice is authentic. It is actually Kevin speaking, which is why his social media audience is so relevant. Well, it is actually him speaking. It's not an agency. It's not a company. A lot of talent out there, especially with music companies, they use agencies to manage their social media. It's not always their voice. This is Kevin's voice. So Kevin just built this organically. So when we went to release the movie, we had a groundswell and a huge awareness without spending any money. It was all driven through social media.
I think I read for this last one, you all spent about $5 million of your own money to bring it to the theater. Is that right?
On the first one.
On the first one you did. And so you got a $7 million return
Yeah, well,
on your
that's just
investment.
theatrical and home video generative.
Look. You're undercutting us. That's just on theatrical. Then we got the home video.
So it ended up about $20 million.
Wow. So $5 million investment, a $20 million return. What I get from that, Jeff, is always bet on yourself. Is that something that you employ?
Absolutely. One of the things in business, like with Kevin Hart, when I first laughed my pain, is we produced the movie independently for about $1 million. And then what the strategy was to do was to take it around and shop with all the studios. We basically got a no from everybody. Everybody, we don't know, he's not big enough, and then nobody really believed in him. But we always had our backup strategy was that if we couldn't get a studio to do it, we were just going to do it ourselves. So that was always a viable alternative for us. And I think in business, one of the things that I always preach is that when you go in a meeting, if you're not in a position to say no or walk out of the meeting, you're not empowered in that meeting. So the reality is when we went in these meetings, we went in meetings with, we kind of went in with a little swag, saying, if you guys don't get it, we're going to do it ourselves. And that's actually what we ended up doing. So we put the movie out ourselves, put P&A money, we booked the theaters ourselves, did all the marketing ourselves, which actually was the catalyst that led to my Lionsgate deal. Because Lionsgate was one of the companies that was interested in doing it, but they didn't put the right deal on it.
Gotcha. So after that, then they said, oh, hold on.
Exactly.
Hold on. Come on in, Jeff. Can I get you a glass of water? What do you need? Let's talk, right?
Exactly.
I think it's interesting that you say bet on yourself, and it does, coming out of your mouth, it sounds so good. I see people writing up, but I know that people have the question, well, you say bet on yourself, and that sounds easy enough, but I don't have $1 million laying around. How do I start betting on myself small time if I don't have that kind of money to put behind a project that I'd like to do?
So it's a great question. So the reality is, I don't know if there's any screenwriters or directors or talent in the room, but when I'm going to go back to social media and the internet, the social media and the internet as well as digital technology has made it inexpensive. You don't need $1 million to spend to bet on yourself.
You can make movies on your phone.
Exactly.
Yeah. Searching for Sugar Man, they finished that on an iPhone.
So the reality is that as a filmmaker, you have to be a marketing person also. You also have to be a social media person. As an example, if you have a script, you can't get it made, well, you can go shoot a short and put it on YouTube and social media and build an audience, and that will attract attention more so than a script will. Because if I see a clip and it's got a million people watching the clip, I'm going to take notice of that. And there's been a number of movies that have been picked up. Actually, there's a movie called, you haven't seen the trailer, coming out in October called Dear White People. This college students is
Just saw it. See it.
They basically cut a trailer. They cut a trailer and built an audience through YouTube and ended up getting the movie financed. So there's alternative ways to do it, and digital and social are really the way to do it.
What about Kickstarter? We hear a lot with that these days. What do you think of going that route, like crowdsourcing to try to get funding for those things?
I like Kickstarter. I mean, when I think digital, I think Kickstarter is under that umbrella. But one thing with Kickstarter, you just, once again, it goes back to marketing. You have to get people to kind of tune into your project and also be able to give away stuff to attract people to support your Kickstarter campaign. But that's also another viable option.
So it also said that you were, along with creating $150 million in content, you were accredited with building a kind of a library of about 200 DVDs that were targeted and marketed to the African American consumer or the urban audience. You know, this is an audience that Hollywood traditionally doesn't embrace or pay a lot of attention to. You hear things like, there's not a lot of purchasing power in this audience. You hear things like, black people don't go to the movies. They don't really spend that type of money. So what made you think, I'm gonna look at this differently, and I'm gonna embrace this audience?
Well, I think the biggest thing is
You're like, I am black, that's
like,
all.
so it's like, so for me is that, one of the things when you're sitting in a room with a lot of the studios is the marketing executives market based off data and statistics that they put together through various sources. One of those sources is Nelson ratings. You guys everybody heard the term Nelson ratings. Does anybody in this room have a box in their house?
I've never met anyone.
See, that's this conversation.
I've never
But-
met someone who has one.
But that drives the decisions for television shows getting greenlit, television shows getting canceled. And I have this saying, I was just telling Melanie, I have this saying in a room. And one of the things just to find out, when I'm in a room with studio executives, I don't bite my tongue, which is probably why I'm still around, but I don't bite my tongue. But one of the things I say is that you can't track black. So they have all these stats.
Wait a minute, say that one more time.
You can't track black. What I mean by that is they have Nelson ratings, they have all the stats, and they tell us what black people do, what we like. But at the end of the day, I still have yet in my career to meet an African American with a Nelson box. But that's the tool that they use to greenlight shows, greenlight movies. And so the reality, kind of to your question is, why I decided on this side is because I am the audience. I mean, that's where I grew up. I grew up marketing to this audience, so I am not so familiar with people who is not really a decision.
Did you see, though, that, because of course this was an underserved audience, when you tapped into it, do you see for other people who may be interested in going the route of movie making a film, is there an avenue there to tap into still an underserved audience?
Well, actually,
Tyler Perry
Exactly.
saw the same thing.
Exactly. Let me back up probably how when I first entered the business was basically through home entertainment and DVD business. I'm back up that way, kind of answer your question is that when I first went to Hollywood, I come up from the music industry. I was a concert promoter. I went to Hollywood like a lot of people was I wanted to go down and be a movie producer, produce a bunch of movies, direct movies, write the whole nine. Quickly found out that it's not as easy as people paint a picture of you. But what happened is that I wanted to learn film production, and I was very successful as being a concert promoter. So what I did is I went into music videos, and I went into music videos really just so I could learn how production works. But because I was transitioning from music, I had a lot of connections, so I was able to secure a lot of music videos. During that time, I was producing music videos for Master P. So Master P, obviously he blew up and he decided to start a film company. He said, "Hey Jeff, you want to come run a film company?" No one films. Now, honestly, did I know anything about running a film company? No. Didn't know anything about distribution. So what I did is, on the job training, I immediately enrolled in some classes at UCLA. UCLA has some entertainment extension courses. So I enrolled in classes on distribution, film financing, economics. So I immediately went to some classes. So I was learning on the job while I was going to school, running
So
film.
smart.
So one of the things that, how I got into, of course, started in DVD business at this time, this was 98, 99. So there was no straight to DVD business or home entertainment business. This was a time when you were going to buy a movie, it was like $58, $70. You were basically renting movies from Blockbuster. So Master P had some films he wanted to do. Obviously, the film that he wanted to do, Hollywood wasn't really
Hollywood still not ready.
I was saying that politically. So, he said,
Foolish.
"Yeah, go get the deal." So I went around to all the studios, tried to shop figure out how to get my movies out. I'm like, oh, okay. And there was no home entertainment business. Like, there wasn't a model, so what I said, okay.
Home entertainment straight to DVD.
Yeah, home entertainment is straight to DVD. When I say home entertainment, there was no model. It was just you go to Blockbuster and rent a movie. You couldn't go buy movies. The studios were not even in that business. So what I did is I went to all the record stores, which was Tower Records and Warehouse Records and all those record changes that was selling the CDs. And I said, hey, we're going to start producing some movies. Will you carry these movies? They basically all said no. They said, no, we're not in the movie business. They didn't believe in it. So I then went back and said, hey, I'm going to give you these movies for free on consignment. Consignment means instead of you paying me up front, I'm just going to give you these movies, but if they sell, you're going to have to pay me a higher price. So $40 million later, that was the start of the whole thing. That was before the studios went back. So that, to go back to your question, how did I know there's audience? But that way he started marketing as an audience, but it was kind of by a little bit of trial and error, but it was more speaking to the entrepreneur spirit, is that the model may not always be in front of you. Sometimes you have to create the model. And it's not always going to be there. There's a lot of people, you have to think out of the box. There was no box. It was like, Jeff, figure out how to get these movies out.
And now, I mean, people become millionaires on the straight to DVD market. I mean, it's really a thriving market right now. We see it a lot. A lot. I talk to a lot of Hollywood actors who, when they want to start becoming producers, they produce straight to DVD films, and they make money off of it.
Exactly. And what you're saying is a transition. Now you're getting millionaires from YouTube. So instead of straight to DVD, now it's digital, now it's social media. So now you're getting people who are online who are making a living just making YouTube videos. And that's very true. People that are making a living making YouTube videos.
Yeah, what were we talking about earlier? We were talking about the Funny or Die channel. The Funny or Die channel is making a mint off of YouTube, making great, funny content off of digital, off of YouTube. Can we talk about digital real quick? Because I work at CNN, and the thing that we hear every single morning at our morning editorial meeting is what's going on with digital. What is our digital audience talking about? And whatever our digital audience wants to talk about or wants to see, or whatever's driving our digital audience drives our television audience. Are we seeing that in filmmaking?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. It's interesting that even when we're in meetings talking, casting and stuff like that, one of the things that'll come up is, hey, what's their Facebook, what's their Twitter numbers? Like if there's 3 actors, and let's say they're kind of all the same level, the next question will be, what's their social media, what's their digital following? Like, so people, especially on the market side, are very in tune to digital because that's where the consumers are at the end of the day. Whether it's Facebook, Twitter, or any other social media channel, that's where the consumers are at. I mean, that's how they're consuming on the daily. They're consuming news, they're consuming entertainment. So it is a big part of the process when we're talking about film.
Well, talk about if stepping up your social media game is important, especially if you're trying to be an entrepreneur and break into this business. How did Kevin do it? I mean, because all of a sudden it seems like he just jumped into our face, and maybe that was on purpose. But was it a slow build, or was it just how did that happen?
It actually was a slow build. It wasn't like overnight. He started on this 5 years ago.
Maybe he is just like, hey, and he just feels like he jumps into your face.
Yeah. We started building it 5 years ago. So it wasn't like it was just overnight, but it just continued and continued and continued. And then with the success of, the first stand-up, we saw a huge jump. Let me explain, we saw a huge jump. And obviously now him being a movie star, the numbers just exponentially just growing
Right.
on a daily basis.
So
But it was a slow build.
It was a slow build.
It wasn't overnight.
When you're now at this level of success that a lot of people are trying to get to, can you just give some good investment tips? What are your 3 best investment tips? What would you say to people when do you reinvest in yourself? Do you reinvest in your projects? What do you do to maintain? And I mean, you're still trying to grow, but what do you do to maintain?
Well, I think, from an entrepreneur standpoint, when we look at entertainment, I think, the biggest advice is that before you go into any project, you need to create a business plan and a business model. And the reason is that you may not be investing yourself, you may go to no, I'm gonna do it myself if I really believe it. So I'm not, I mean, no is not.
No is not an option for you for most times. Can we talk a little bit, I mean, we're in the house of the Lord this morning, and there's one thing that has kind of become a mission of mine, because I think that it's another underserved area in Hollywood. That's Hollywood and faith. We're starting to see faith-based films actually really do well, and the Christian audience is also another audience, along with the African American audience, that Hollywood really has never embraced. We're seeing it now with movies like Heaven's for Real. We're seeing The Son of God. We're seeing, these type of films. What have you seen in the way of faith-based films and Hollywood and faith getting funded?
So, I think that, to your point, that's a very, it's an emerging area in Hollywood, but I think for it to be authentic, it needs to come from a real faith-based perspective versus the studio trying to develop something and force feed something down to the church community. So where you're seeing the success of these producers and directors, they're coming
Devon Franklin,
they're
yeah.
coming from that mindset from the church, and they understand and have the right messages versus the studio. Because what they'll do, yeah, there you go. So they know. So there's a huge audience there. The studios don't really understand the audience, so it's kind of hit and miss for them in terms of them really creating a business around it.
Yeah, we talked about betting on yourself, but how do you spot, because out here, if you're a producer, you got to put talent together. How do you spot that person? How do you spot that shining light? How do you spot somebody and say, yeah, I know that I need to partner with them, like a Kevin Hart or a Shaq or a Master Beat?
The thing is that I've been blessed is that there's a thing in businesses that part of it is instinct. Through my career, I've identified talent before they grow.
Listen to your gut.
Just listen to my gut. I mean, there wasn't necessarily, I can look at this model and say, okay, Kevin Hart's going to be the next guy, or Master P, or Dave Chappelle. I did Dave Chappelle's first stand-up. There wasn't something that said that's going to be this guy. It was just gut. One of the things I did with Kevin, though, and see, this is what the studios won't do, is that the way that I really tuned in on Kevin is that I went out on the road with him, and I've been on the road with a lot of talent, and what I was able to see is something that the studios or that you couldn't see in any stats or any research, is that I saw how the audience was responding to him, and I kept saying to Kevin, I said, Kev, you got to be, next thing Murphy, you have to be a rock star, which is like how you promote, say, I'm a comic rock star, because I saw how the audience would respond to him. So one of the things I did, Jack actually did it here in Dallas, is that, so Kevin, when he was on the road, he had a show, he had basically a black backdrop, nothing on stage, no set. And I said, Kevin, you have to present yourself like a star on stage. And he was resistant, so I told him, I said, look, I'm going to go in my pocket, and I'm going to basically create a set for you, a backdrop, a set, and illusions and everything. We had a show in Dallas on Verizon. I said, I'm not going to tell you what it is, you just got to trust me. If you like it when you get it, you just write me a check back. And obviously, you wrote me a check back.
Exactly.
So I basically created this set. We had this illusion, we got a magic box, and he came out of nowhere. But I said, you have to be a star on stage. And so, but I saw how, early on, I saw how the crowd was reacting to him. They were walking in the street and stuff like that. That doesn't only happen for me. He's coming in, the girls are screaming, and I said, okay, wait a minute, you have to be a star. So I saw that early on, like, I wouldn't, if I didn't spend the time and go on the road with him, I wouldn't have saw that.
Who are your mentors in this business? If you say nobody.
My father.
Or who?
But he's not in the business. Here's to be honest with you. Like,
You're saying you kind of created your own model.
yeah, exactly. I have mentors, but they're not necessarily in business.
Understood.
They're more my father, then I have a guy named Dr. Tony, who's been in my life since I was a child. And he's not in the entertainment business, but he's just a great person that I bounce stuff off of.
Where did you get your entrepreneurial drive then? Your dad or your...
Not necessarily. I think just growing up I grew up in San Jose, so I grew up in Silicon Valley. So to be honest with you, I always thought I was going to go in the tech field versus entertainment. So I was always, when I was in college, I was doing internships. we do movies now, Netflix, okay, they're out of the Bay Area. When you look at Apple, who basically turned the music industry upside down, they changed the whole business model. They're out of the Bay Area. It's tech. So I follow the tech companies first than I follow anybody that's an entertainment company. If there was a company that I would say that I follow the most entertainment companies, actually it would be Marvel Entertainment, because it's just they've done a great job in terms of marketing their brands.
They're gonna have black.
I mean,
And a woman.
if you think about it, they do, 15 years ago, they do Batman movie bonds. They come back to Dark Knight. They do Superman bonds. Marvel gets bought now. They do Man of Steel. That's brilliant marketing. So those are the kind of things I follow. But they're really the only ones that really are doing that. So I really follow the tech companies, because the tech companies are basically changing the entertainment industry. Luckily, the film industry and television industry has kind of got hip and not fight technology, where the music industry basically fought the technology. I mean, the music industry had the ability at one point to be what Apple is now. But instead of embracing technology, instead of embracing digital music, they tried to fight it. They tried to shut it down. And you can't shut down innovation. And that's what they tried to do. That's why they're participating.
Yeah, I was gonna say the music industry is the industry that's struggling, not the tech industry. Now they're trying to play catch up.
Exactly.
And having a very hard time doing it, because even the artists are saying, you know what, this traditional way of disseminating music, we're leaving you behind. We gotta find other ways to do it. They go to the tech folks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You see Beyonce releasing an album on, iTunes with no promotion, just dropping it. And I mean, those are things that are unheard of,
Yeah.
but you're going to the tech side. Okay, I have an entire list of questions here that you guys sent in earlier, but if there are questions in the audience, I actually want to get to those first, because I want to hear from everyone, because I know, look at that, here we go, come on. I know we have questions before I get to the ones that people.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Absolutely, sir. How you doing?
Explain or elaborate to the best of your ability the challenges that you face in terms of generating capital, access to capital. Now, you touched upon it a little bit, but one of the primary factors in regards to any business, especially for people that look like you and me and those in this room, is access to capital. And you're in that industry that you are a part of, it does not favor capital for us, not to any extent. And the other component of my question is, to what extent do you do due diligence to try to find what may be a top hit? Let me give you an example in terms of academic films like James Brown. James Brown hit the scene 50, 60 years ago, but now his film is doing well. Richard Williams, he has a book out, and the Williams sister, Venus and Serena, in terms of the challenges that he's gone through to develop some of the best tennis players in the history of the game. But just focus on, if you can, the component pertaining to access to capital, garnering clients or consumers, because you can be in business, but if you have no consumers, no clients, you ain't got no business. And what do you do in terms of research and development to try to say, hey, this might be a hit? If you can't do all three of them, no problem, I understand.
So that's a great question. When you look at trying to access capital, there's a number of different ways or strategies to find capital. One is traditional institutional capital. So it might be banking, it might be a bank, it might be hedge funds. There's different funds out there. Now, the challenge with traditional institutional capital, so I can explain the business model, is that unlike the challenge we have with black filmmakers or creating black film, is that our counterparts, what they're able to do, they're able to package films, and they can go to the international markets and pre-sell these films. So they can come back and say, let's say the budget is something $1 million. What they'll do is go out and pre-sell 60% of the budget. And so that means they have guarantees of $600 coming in from these pre-sales. So when you go into institutional banking or hedge funds, they're looking for pre-sales or certain guarantees. It is very difficult for us to studio or distribution guarantee, knowing that that film has a home already versus that you want to go shopping and go to the film festival route. So institutional funding or hedge funding for movies and television is very difficult. The other side of that is private funding. Now, private funding is the way I got into business actually was through private funding, but that's friends, family, in my case, it was athletes. I remember the 90s and stuff like that. So when I was going to concerts, I had a group of athletes that I raised money from. As a matter of fact, I still have some athletes that I work with on certain projects. The first Kevin Hart project we did, I had a group of athletes that were in a small percentage. Because a lot of athletes were trying to legitimize and move into the entertainment business, but what happens is they hook up with the wrong people and the wrong products, and they end up losing a lot of money. So I actually work with a number of athletes in doing that, but there's really only two. There's the institutional, which is the banking, and then it's private equity. Private equity route is, unless you're in that loop, you have to be able to get to these people or get to their business managers or their attorneys, in terms of representing, but, athletes, entertainers that might be looking to diversify their entertainment business. Or, like I said, it's a group of friends or a group of, a small group of people who get an investment. But the institutional is very difficult because there's just a lot of things that you have to put together that is hard to do because you have to get certain guarantees.
You touched a little bit on film festivals and going the film festival route. What do you think about that? I mean, now these small film festivals that have started, the South by Southwest, the Sundance Film Festivals, the Toronto Film Festival, I mean, they've turned into these massive things. I remember meeting at Sundance 2 years ago, Ryan Coogler, who was bringing Fruitvale Station to the film festival. And when I saw it, I said, oh, first of all, it's one of the most brilliant films I saw that year. But second of all, he's a film student still, just graduated from USC Film School, and now he's got this great movie, he's building his body of work. So what do you think of those films?
I think film festivals are great. The challenge with film festivals for filmmakers, there's certain film festivals that the studios go to. They go to Toronto, they go to Sundance, now South by Southwest, but they're basically not, the studios are not necessarily sending acquisition representatives to Black film festivals. So if you don't get in the major film festival, you can't expect to go into some of these festivals and think there's going to be a studio that's going to film.
Next question, anyone else have a question? Did he answer all your questions?
Thank
You had a couple
Did
of
you have
them.
one?
You didn't talk about the issue of research and development or due diligence in regards to developing a film as to what you think may be a hit. Now, maybe that kind of process does not exist in your industry, but in the event that it does, could you elaborate to the best extent possible?
In terms of the research and development?
Research and development, yeah. And I mentioned like James Brown. Somebody didn't just PFA pluck James Brown from the air. I mean, he's been around for a long period of time.
They've been working on that biopic for
Right.
a long
But in all
time.
probability, somebody did some research to determine, hey, this will be a hit, and when will it be a hit? And it just so happened that the relationship between him and Al Sharpton, it just helps a great deal. But if such a thing exists in that particular arena in terms of research and development, so what may be a big hit? Did I articulate?
So I think, when you talk about biopics, one of the things to think about, and I follow the same strategy, is that you're taking an IP. IP is an intellectual property. So I mean, there's a property there with an audience and a brand. We know James Brown has an audience. A lot of, I just mentioned Marvel, those are IPs because those movies were developed from comic books. So when you're talking
right fit, or I don't know if our audience would like. I'll tell you one thing I just heard. CNN has decided maybe they want me to start doing some news anchoring as well. But they had me in the other day, and someone said, one of the executives, "I'm just wondering if it may be jarring for our audience." What are you talking about? How the heck am I jarring? I mean, I know I've got a big mouth, but jarring? So you know, it's tough. It's tough, and you're gonna get a lot of it, and you may not get your movie made in year 1 or year 2 or year 3. We're seeing the Richard Pryor story right now go through so many changes. They would have been talking about that for 10 years, I know. So I mean, it's a slow grind and a slow process to come to fruition to see a movie like Get On Up, like we've seen right now. By the way, have you seen it? What'd you think? Yeah, that's Cedric Boseman's something else, isn't he? Chadwick, I'm sorry. That. You're right. You're right. I just had said Chadwick Boseman. But here's what, and I will say this though, because I think he's fantastic. I think he embodied James Brown like not many people could. I don't want him to do any more biopics. I need him to take a step back for a second. I don't want him to be the biopic guy. I want him, yeah, you right? Okay. Anyway, sorry to sidetrack. I just had to say that. Okay, questions? You want to go to, there's a mic here. So if you're gonna, and there's a mic over here. Okay, well there's someone at the mic now, and then we'll take you in the green. We'll do ladies first. Is that okay? Take you in the green, then we'll take you, sir, here in the blue.
And I'm Nischelle, so forgive me. And I'm here because I have a son that graduated in film as well. And we've been to several Black film festivals with Jeff Friday. And I think CodeBlack was there as well. And he's won some awards for some of the things he's done. But it's a challenge for him because he's not only writes, he does Christian film. He's had a couple of opportunities maybe to intern, but once he gets to it, I mean, there's really just not for our children good intern opportunities in this industry. So I just want some words of advice because we've talked to Jeff before, and just trying to see how to get into the industry as a creative young Black man. Get a job opportunity. Do you have interns at CodeBlack? We've looked at your organization distributing. I even have an idea for independent films because they really don't have a place to land with independent films, even a platform online for just independent films. So just wanted some ideas on that and maybe an opportunity to get connected even with your organization so we can just learn and grow.
So one of the things is, for young people, especially colleges, I always preach internships because one of the things and one of the challenges in the industry, we don't have enough Black executives coming up. They have a system. They just keep feeding their people. We don't have necessarily a system where we're feeding our people. Like I have an internship program that we run every summer. Like I have Nischelle, we have 6 interns working. I did something a little different this year with my internship program. Is that a lot of times most internships are free. I run a paid internship this year, and part of the reason my daughter who's 19 is an intern, and I have to give her money, so I'm not gonna make it work. So, but what I did was that the internship that I focused on this year, because a lot of times what I do is focus on certain areas, so I focused on social media and marketing. And I found 6 kids who were really good at social media. And what they now realized, I said, look, you guys are doing this every day. Why don't you get paid for doing it? So one of the reasons why I paid them is I wanted them to feel like, hey, I can do this and get paid. So now they're all going back. I said, now you go back to your colleges, go to all the departments, you create your profiles, you can show them exactly what you did. You probably can try and get a job at your colleges, but I really advocate internships and learning the industry. That's how you learn from the inside out. Because a lot of times, most kids don't know what jobs are available. One of the things is, like, and I just kind of use my daughter as an example. Obviously, I'm trying to push her on the business and entertainment. And she's been until my breakthrough was actually a couple of years ago when she was an intern for me when she was 17. Is one of the things I did is I took her to. She was there, so I took her to every meeting I went to. She's like, oh, well, what does this person do? What does this person do? But one of the things for women, she saw a lot of women in power. Whether it be agents, attorneys, I already took her to every meeting. So then she's like, well, what does that person do? And she started, her wheels started clicking like, oh, well, I can do that, well, how do I do that? Because she just didn't know, and most people don't know that there's all these jobs behind the scenes that are available that are not normally accessible to us. So, to your point, yes, I'll talk about internships, I run internships every summer, but the reality is, you gotta try to, especially if you're in college, like some young kids in there, get in and get some, do some internships and find out what type of jobs are available. The other thing is, like, this just happened to me a couple weeks ago, so I was at Lionsgate, and I met this young brother in the elevator, and a lot of times, you got a big company, so you don't know everybody in the company, you might randomly see him, so we started talking, and he worked in business affairs, that's what he do, well, he's a business assistant for a legal assistant. He said, can I come by for a couple minutes? I said, yeah, come on. Now, he's a filmmaker, but see, he was in the building, so he was able to come in and pitch me his project, but he's actually a director, but he's working in business affairs, but by being in proximity, him being in the building, he now has access to stuff that he wouldn't have access to. So I really do push, especially for college students, to get in and intern and find out what jobs are available, because we just don't have enough people coming out of college that are pursuing marketing positions and graphic positions. There's all kinds of jobs available, but a lot of times we just don't know about it.
And I think you're right. I think it's also important, especially if parents are out there whose children want to be filmmakers, whose black boys want to be filmmakers, and it's important to still keep encouraging. I remember when I first talked to Ryan Coogler, and he said, he's from the Bay Area, and he said, I didn't even think that this existed for me. Like, I didn't even believe that people like me could make movies, that people that look like me were able to do this. So I think that it's important to keep talking to them and keep showing. I mean, there aren't a lot of representatives out there. There's the John Singletons, there's the Ryan Cooglers, there's the Ava DuVernay's, there's just a few of us, but we're there, just a few of us, so keep talking to them, encouraging. Go right ahead.
What I've heard about angel investors, but I don't know how to find them other than searching on the internet, and I still run out of luck. Like, one day they'll be there, and the next day they're gone. So I've heard about them. I want to know how to get access to them, and
said he has a big mouth and he doesn't need it. Okay, stand up, sir. Okay.
Good morning. I want to know, I know CodeBlack initially distributed primarily, isn't that correct?
Primary what?
Primarily y'all distributed first, y'all were distributors, right? And then when you got on Lionsgate, that's when y'all producing from beginning to end, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, well, okay, so let me, for some people don't know, is that a distributor or a studio is basically, as a distributor, our job is to look at finished films. So for example, somebody out there finished film, we might look at a finished film at a film festival or acquire stuff, and then we would basically license or buy the film and put it out to the marketplace and handle all the marketing. So that, as a distributor function, my first job is to actually look out in the marketplace for finished films. But your question is that we do produce stuff too. At Lionsgate, it's still the same. We have acquisition and we do production, but from a business standpoint, it's much easier for me. If I see a great film out there, just to get a finished film, then I don't have to do all work.
Right, right.
In terms of the producing the film, it's just the production of the film is, it's a year. That's a year of your life when you produce yourself. From my standpoint, all I have a creative side, I'm more on the business side, so I like acquisitions better because I don't have to spend all the time in developing stuff because it just takes a long time to do this kind of stuff. But it is something we have to do because I can't run my business based purely on acquisition because there might not be any good films out there, so I have to kind of keep the supply going through production.
So like a partnership that you have with, say, Kevin Hart, you let him be the creative mind and you come in and you take the business model and that partnership is what produces
Correct.
that we explore.
Correct.
Just two follow-ups to that. So with the pre-buy deal, as a distributor, what is it that you're looking for, like towards the script and certain actors attached to it? Or is there a certain project that you're looking at for doing a pre-buy deal? First thing, and the second thing, the second thing is what?
We want you to get your questions in.
Well, yeah, I don't want to take up all the time.
No, you're good, you're good.
Okay, yeah, so you can address that. The pre-buy, are you, in dealing with pre-buy deals, is there certain scripts and actors attached to it that you're looking for? Or, for instance, if a film went to a festival and won several awards and stuff like that, what is it that you're looking for?
Okay, so in terms of pre-buy, what he means by pre-buy would mean like, so let's say you had a script, you had a director, and you had actors attached, and getting paid, and you had, let's say you're gonna make the movie, but going back to your question about investors, is if you had institutional financing, they may say, well, you need to have a guaranteed distributor on board. So what you would do is go to the studio and with your package and try to basically negotiate a pre-buy on the film. Now, it's very hard to do those kind of deals for a number of reasons. I don't know what the end film is going to look like, so I have to see who the director is, who the talent is, and have it be and feel comfortable that you're going to do a good product. So, if you came in, like I got John Singleton, and I have these actors and something like this, they have a track record with different films. It's much easier, but if it's a new director and unknown talent, it's almost impossible to get a pre-buy on another deal. In terms of what you just said about film festivals, I go to the film festivals, but the film festival getting awards or anything like that doesn't really determine my interest in the movie. At the bottom line is the challenge with film festivals, you have a different kind of audience. It's not the normal, the public, because there's certain audiences that go to film festivals. But it's just a certain sensibility there. It's really about what like the film and I think it's marketable versus if they got an award for film festival.
Final question. So if you have, what if you have a new director, but actors that are doing B-list actors attached to the project that want to do it?
So it's a new director, but established actors.
what advice would you give us as far as, the right approach to getting our, in my case, my novel, into your hands? And then, and do we necessarily have to have a script already in place if we're working from a novel?
Okay, so that's a great question. And that's actually one of our business strategies is we look at books, which I explained, which are IPs. So, which you talked about Zane. So, in that case, that was actually a finished movie I picked up at Zane. We have a movie Addicted coming out, which is based off the book. The reason that the studio agreed that the film was, based on Zane's brand as well as the book sales. So when I'm looking at books, first and foremost, I'm going to probably look at the sales. I mean, like there's a couple books that I'm pursuing right now. The one I've been pursuing for 8 years, which everybody has like the coldest winter ever. I've been trying to
You're right. Everybody's been on
and I've sat with Souls, but Souls is just she's holding out. So, because that's what's kind of started this whole, I think, book trend in 1999. Now, one of the books that I was able to pull out of the license was
What is she holding out for, by the way?
it's first it was this gigantic sum of money that it was just
Crazy.
impressive. Now the money's kind of in line where the deal can be made, but she wants to write the script and have final approval on the script and potentially direct.
Oh,
That's what the problem
there you go. That
So-
kind of lends to your question.
So that's okay. If I'm a Presidentend dog, I got what I mean. So that's part of it. But to your point is that one of the books I picked up that we're developing right now, we actually have a script is Omar Kyrie Flagler. So we have that coming out right now.
Have you guys read that?
So when I'm looking at books, first I look at the sales. Now, that's not always the rule. So there's another book that I optioned called, called Last Night the DJ Saved My Life. Now, the reason I optioned that book is it didn't have great sales, but I just love the concept. The title, Last Night the DJ Saved My Life, a romantic comedy in the music world. So I like the bottom line story. So first thing would be sales. Second would be what's the story? Does it potentially make a good movie? Does it market?
Thank you guys for coming up. Jeff, what would you recommend we do as a community? Because we seem to be so fragmented. There's a lot of questions that I'm hearing about, what do we do about business plans, attorneys, things of that nature. There's a lot of talented people in this room. I know David Small is here, he's a very competent attorney. What can we do as a community, number one? What would you advise us to be more cohesive like other communities that can go to? If I'm in the Jewish community, I don't have an issue, I know where to go, or at least I know how to be led to the right attorney, representation, so on and so forth. And it seems as a community, we just don't have that cohesiveness. Because again, I think it's sponsored by a bank here, so for those that are looking for a business plan, I'm sure you can find the gentleman, or at least I would seek out that gentleman to try to figure out.
Well, I was going to say, an Empower series like this is a
That's
good place to
what I'm
start.
saying. Listen, I know for myself, I have a small boutique company, the Dunn Media Group, and we have a TV show, sports docudrama that Tony Dorsett will be coming out with. And again, it's technology. What I call technology is the information of people. We have to get connected with the right people to get us down the street, because other communities, they have that from that standpoint. So what would you say we do? Again, I heard an angel investor standpoint. I mean, you have some African Americans in this town that run, there's not many, but I know there's a guy in Houston and there's a guy in Dallas that run a fund with like 2.5
Well,
managers.
first of all, that's something that you need to talk to her. I mean, that's making,
Yeah, so
you're making your own point right now, making these
So
connections.
that's what I'm saying, like,
Absolutely.
from a national standpoint, I know for me, it's difficult. I think I'm very versed in making quality content. I need to have that connection to be able to sell that content, so I can focus on the creative from that standpoint. So I'll let you go ahead and answer that question.
Well, okay, so the conversation about community is a whole other thing. The black community in Hollywood is not, there's no black community within Hollywood in terms of supporting each other. Because we have agents and managers and students, which are crab and buck mentality. So, but I think that's pervasive amongst our culture. But like I said, that whole conversation.
But I also think
there's a book that I recommend for everybody called Blue Ocean Strategy. Blue Ocean Strategy is a book that I follow like religiously. It's one of the biggest selling books worldwide. But what strategy is that you have a red ocean, you have a blue ocean. In the red ocean, you have sharks, you have piranhas, you have predators swimming in this red ocean, and they're all just gobbling each other up. In the blue ocean, you have dolphins. And the analysis of this is that in the blue ocean, I don't compete with anybody. I create my own strategy that has nothing to do with what they're doing in the red ocean. You create your own avenues, and you don't get caught up in that red ocean, which is a crab in the bucket. And that's part of the problem in Hollywood is that, and even in the music industry. I mean, as an example, is as much as this is a benefit for me, I should not be the only black distributor in Hollywood. Why am I not the black distributor? That makes no sense. In the music industry, which is now music is distributed digitally, it's an MP3 file. Why are there not any black music distribution companies? That doesn't make any sense when I can just hit a file. And you have artists that buy it. They're still, even the artists mentality, are still running to the record companies. In the music industry, there's no way these artists should be relying on record companies when it's too easy to distribute music. I can do it from my house. But it's just, we have to retrain our mind, and we got to create these.
I'm going to take your question in just a second, but I want to kind of tap into kind of what they've been talking about here, and it's a question that Joella Venters sent in, and I'm modifying it a little bit because she asked about the Dallas market in particular and where it fits into the pantheon of Hollywood or kind of the offshoots. I mean, we usually think of New York, LA, now we're thinking Atlanta, some, maybe New Orleans, some. Where does Dallas fit into that entertainment industry for the people in here that are interested in it and live in this area?
I think, one thing I was having a conversation earlier is that I'm sure you guys hear about a lot of movies being made in Louisiana, being made in Georgia. And the reason that the move to Hollywood is basically to these states is because of the tax incentives. And the way it works is you go into one of these states, and I'm just using a round number, and let's say you spend $1 million, you can get 20 to 25% back. So if you're spending $10 million, you can go and get $2.5 million back. That's a reason why these studios basically called runaway production, meaning they're moving out of LA and going to the States. So like Atlanta is like every studio is in Atlanta and Georgia shooting movies. I mean, they built sound stages, they built offices, everybody's in Georgia shooting. Louisiana was like that for a while, but the tax systems got a little bit funny. Is the state of Texas has a tax incentive or a tax bill, but it's not competitive with the other states. So that's why you're not seeing a lot of production come to the state, because everybody's going to Georgia or they're going to Louisiana. Connecticut, I think, has 30%. I think Texas is 15%, but Georgia's like 25 to 30%. So it's just that's the reason why you're not seeing a lot of activity.
My question is how to expand internationally as a business owner of color. Our business is church, and so I spent a lot of time overseas. I just got finished living in China, and I was there for over a year, and I couldn't have bought one of our movies even off the street. And I think entertainment has the power to lead. It has the power to start conversations. So if there's going to be anything that opens the door to other businesses being able to expand across the pond, I think entertainment would be the first route. But I don't even see any of our movies over there. I mean, I saw Transformers and even small films, but nothing with black producers, black actors, black anything. Kevin Hart's success was, we talk about it all the time. I go to a restaurant, people are reciting lines from his stand-up comics, but we had to watch it on YouTube because it wasn't being distributed. China, as you know, is the bootleg capital of the world.
China's also become just the movie marketing capital of the world as well.
But we can't find our films there. And so I'm wondering what your projection might be on how to expand in that arena.
Well, the goal for me personally, my company, is to build global distribution. But the way that's going to happen is basically it's just a hard nut to crack. I mean, there's only certain, but China is the big payoff. So for me, what I'm focused on is I wanna conquer the UK, London. I wanna conquer South Africa. I know there's an audience over there. We actually do distribute our stuff over there. So my thing is like, let me own, if I can own the UK and if I can own South Africa, that's the first step. China will come at some point, but China's just like trying to go spend time trying to break China right now, at least for our type of movies. It's probably not the best use of my time, but I know that I can penetrate the UK. I know that I can penetrate South Africa and create a business model in those territories.
Let me ask one more question from here because it kind of taps into what she was saying that Carlin Toole sent in. He asked, do you see online channels like Netflix as the best source of distributing Black film for the near future? If not, what do you think that key source for distributing? Why can't I talk this morning? Distributing Black film will be.
Well, I think right now it is Netflix, and Netflix is actually expanding globally. So Netflix is, I would say Netflix, I'm a fan of Netflix. But in any business, there will be a competitor that will pop up. Kind of go extensive, but Netflix is probably the platform.
Gotcha.
And if this is being filmed, I want to get this question in. I work with 37,000 students on our campus. A lot of them major in film, radio, and television. So my question is, what advice would you give to those students? What courses to take before they graduate? While they're still in school, what should they do to get themselves ahead of the curve, not wait until the last semester before they graduate to try to get an internship? What strategy would you advise them to do? Courses and strategy.
What I push is new media and marketing, new media being digital, social, is that if they're studying film and television, they need to learn what I call the marketing side of the business. But since everything is going digital, companies like Netflix and YouTube and all these companies, they need to understand that part of the business because they, if they decide to make their own film and produce their own independently, they need to be in a position to have some knowledge on how to distribute those films through digital channels.
We have another question over here, and then I'm gonna come back to you, okay?
Hi. I wrote a show treatment and I tried to market it to some studios here and I was told no. And so through a friend of mine, I was able to send it to someone who's in the industry just to get some feedback on what I needed to do. And basically what he says is it needs to be a play. And so now I'm in the midst of writing a play. However, I really don't want to do a play. And so I've been seeing plays on TV where you just put them on film and they're on the television. And I wanted to know, is that a good strategy to not go through the regular route of doing the same play every day, 3 or 4 times a week, but to put it on film and then get it on the small screen?
I wouldn't necessarily say that's a good or bad strategy. I mean, I think it's a strategy. It might work or might not, because I don't really know what the property is. But making it into a play, unless you're going to get a promoter and tour the play, it doesn't really make any sense. If you're just putting an amount of play and shoot it, that's not going to really get you any traction. You would need to create a play property and then take it out on the road and build an audience around it.
You don't want to make me into a fan. But he did say he loved the concept, so I'm going to try.
Okay.
Good morning. Thank you all for putting this together. It's really, really empowering and beneficial. My name is Candice Bryson, and the question I wanted to know is just more details about your transition from where you were prior to getting into the music industry and the disciplines and the relationship challenges that you had to have before you got to that point. And if you were able to reach back and help the people that may not have saw what you were trying to do.
So my transition before I got into the music industry,
Yes, sir.
honestly, if I look back at my life, I was always in the music industry because I started promoting parties in high school. So, I mean, that promoting parties in high school turned into promoting parties in college, which then turned into concerts. So I kind of was always connected. I started
issues when it came to discipline that you may see that as African Americans we do now. So, you know, you turn something natural into revenue. And I think that a lot of African Americans have that same power, but instead we get so caught up into what's natural, making that more of a hobby. When we try to make that into a revenue, it's more of a, you know, you're acting funny, or why don't you do this for me for free, or try to.
You know, Candace, I'm a firm believer there that goes the cover. I'm a firm believer though in that you, yeah, that's sweetheart, thank you. It's crazy. I'm a firm believer, and I don't want to answer for Jeff, but what you said just struck me, that you have to love what you, I mean, I love the business that I do, and I can't imagine myself doing anything else. I mean, I knew from 12 years old what I had a radio show when I was 14. I think that, like Jeff's saying, inherently, when it's just something you do, and you, like, you turn what you love into your life. And I think that we're all the better for that. And I know personally so many people who that's what's become profitable for them, is they enjoy and what their interests are and their hobbies are. They turn that into their business. I just think that should be our model, period. And I know all of us can. I know, listen, you got bills to pay, okay? You got to do what you do. But I really believe that. I mean, I call it Pollyanna pie in the sky, but you follow your dream and what you love to do. You make that your moneymaker.
Thank you.
I didn't mean to answer your question for you. I'm sorry. You have a question?
Well, you kind of just answered it a little bit, but you touched a little bit on if you're a college student, you know, get the internship to break into the industry. But if you're currently working a 9 to 5 and you're not new out of college, how do you learn what different, you know what you can do in front of the camera, but also what's behind the camera? How can you learn a little bit more about that when you're not, you know, in a position to work for free as an intern?
I mean, here's what I would say is that you have to be disciplined in what you want to pursue, but, you know, I get up in the morning, I read an hour and a half every morning, and there's certain things I read, like I'm reading tech stuff, I'm reading intense stuff, you know, you have to research. The great thing, and I always, you know, and that's when I grew up, but I always preach the internet, is that the information is available. You just have to go get it. Like now, you can just touch a button and you can get the information. So whatever you need to learn or want to learn about, it is available. When like I said earlier, that I went back to school and started taking classes. I went to UCLA and I just went back and started taking executive classes at Harvard. But then when I got too busy, I just get my books and I just read. You have a discipline, you just read. You just read, the information is out there.
That is so important. I mean, it's something that I preach. You know, everyone thinks the entertainment business is fly-by-night, glamorous or whatever. It's a business. So while I'm reading all of the trades, and I read, you know, people say, well, you're an entertainment correspondent. Yes, I do read all the entertainment websites, but I read every single trade. I read Variety, I read Broadcasting and Cable, I read Hollywood Reporter, I read Entertainment Weekly, I read them all, but I also read the Wall Street Journal, and I also read the New York Times, and I also read the Los Angeles Times, because to know the business behind it, and also you just to, you know, world issues, everything comes back to entertainment. I mean, right now, you know, we're talking about Crimea and Ukraine, world issues, but there's always an entertainment element to it. We're seeing that with John Boyd and Javier Bardem fighting, so I need to know the backstory behind the backstory to understand what this argument's about. So it's one of those things where I just feel like you have to know and read and understand everything, and as much as possible. I, like him, I probably spend 2 hours a day just reading everything. All right, thank you.
I would like to, I'm a filmmaker, my name is Mike Grayson. From the distribution side, once a film is completed and you're maybe contemplating distributing the film, you hear a lot of talk about deliverables.
About what?
Deliverables, that
Okay,
term.
deliverables.
Could you expound on that a little bit and kind of maybe explain that in layman's terms?
So one of the most difficult things for through contracts, all the paperwork type. A lot of filmmakers fall short, and actually, believe it or not, I've seen people get into deals with students and are unable to meet the delivery requirements. So it's something that you have to really do when you start a film. It's everything. Make sure is a title copyright, is a trademark. And you have to have all your business in place while you're making the film versus you go make a film and you're trying to chase and put that stuff together. That's all part of the delivery for a film. But it has to really do with a lot of the legal stuff.
We are going to start wrapping things up, but we have one final question. I'm not putting pressure on you to make it good or anything. We've got another final question over here, and then we will say our goodbye. This has been really good, guys. I just want you to know it's been really, really good. Go ahead.
Well, good morning. Thank you so much for taking time to meet with us today. This has been awesome. I have a question that's a little bit different. We know about the business side of you, but we know there's more to you than just that. Relationship, family, faith. How do you balance everything so that you can be the best you?
That's a great ending question. That's a really good, I'm serious, that's a really good ending question. That's an Oprah question. Live your best life. Come on, Jeff.
That's like a personal life really. That's always a battle. You got your faith, you got your family. So I want to go back to my days, just like my days planned out basically. I get up in the morning, boom, boom, boom. It's just like I have a plan of day in terms of even schedule time. I got to spend with my wife, I got some time I got to spend with my kids. It's scheduled out. I mean, I have to do it, otherwise I'm a workaholic. I'll spill over to the person. But one of the things I've done in the last couple of years is I have a son who's 13 who's getting, he starts high school this year. And so for me, geographically, is obviously Santa Monica. So oftentimes I don't get home until 6 or 7. So I'm not home with dad or family, stuff like that. So I started coaching track last year at the high school. What that does, I mean, I'm a 6th period teacher, so it forces me to leave the office and come back over the hill, which is approximately 2 miles where I live at. And I'm back over the hill by 2 or 3 o'clock. But with him coming to high school, when he comes to 6th period, I'm a teacher. So I automatically, it's going to force us to spend more time together because I'm his teacher in class, and we'll leave, we'll go do something, but then I'm going to have that time during the day with him for these next 4 years while I'm in high school. So you have to kind of make those kind of adjustments, but it's tough.
Thank you. That was a great question. And thank you, everybody, for coming out today. Please give Jeff Clanagan a big round of applause. You picked his brain, didn't we? You definitely did. You feel clipped? Are you spent?
A bit.
All right. Much? Okay, good. Thanks again, and thank you all for having me here today. I really appreciate it. I felt at home. I'm home type church, so thank you again. And everyone, you have a really, really wonderful day. It's beautiful outside. Have a good rest of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's thank Jeff and Nischelle again. Were they not fantastic? Are we showing some love on our feet? Absolutely. Absolutely. And Jeff and Nischelle, on behalf of the Empower series, we would like to present you with just a small token of deep appreciation and thanks. These are his and her executive Tiffany ballpoint pens. There's one for you. We like these boxes. We hope you do too. Absolutely. And also, let's thank our sponsors again, including Comerica. All of our sponsors, and we have an additional representative here, who is Mr. Raphael Irving. He's a representative from the National Association of Black Accountants. Is he still here? Let's show him some love in the back. Thank you so much for being here and for your presence. And so before we mingle and before everyone lines up here in the middle section to meet Jeff and Nischelle, we want to encourage a couple of things that the gentleman over here asked about. How does the community come together? You guys are the community. The Empowerment series is the community. So we encourage you, if you heard somebody ask a question or make a comment that associates with you, track them down, trip them, clip them before they hit the door. Make sure you talk to them and exchange information and keep the dialogue going. That is what the purpose of our meeting is all about. And then remember, I do have some tickets for Monday night, so I'm going to ask a few questions to see who wants some Steve Wozniak tickets. and try to get rid of them fairly quickly. The first thing I'm going to ask is, who is our primary financial sponsor of the Empowerment Series? It's an easy one. Come on up. All right, the next question I'm going to ask is, Ms. Nischelle said that there was a film that was finished on an iPhone. What was the name of that film? Yes, sir. Come on up. I thought he said surgeon. Was that his Louisiana accent? All right, another question. Jeff said you had to have one particular model or plan. What is that?
Business plan.
That was kind of easy. I'll go to another one. We go to another one. Let's see. Here's a tougher one. If there were 3 similar film products or actors, Jeff said that there's one specific thing that marketers look for to separate them. Come on up. That's right. And ni hao to you, Madam China lady. I was in China in April and May, so that's what I learned. Ni hao. All right. Jeff says there's an industry that he follows. Is it the entertainment industry or the tech industry? You yelled it out first. Come on up. Be aggressive. Be aggressive.
Yeah, this is a good ticket. Steve wants it. I mean, he's a brilliant mind. I think he's
All right, let's see. What is the name of Nischelle's home church? Come on up.
Reverend Case Pastor.
The right Reverend Deacon Pastor, Brother Pastor. What is the name of the book that Jeff has been pursuing for 8 years? Wait, I need it correctly. Come on up. And what are some of the international markets that